What's going on, YouTube? Chris here. Want to bring you all an update today of Litecoin. Right now we're sitting at $58.40. We're down 2.65%. And what I wanted to do was really step back and take a long-term view at Litecoin. And I want to show you some of the things that I was seeing. And I also wanted to point out a potential chart pattern that we have here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through Getting Started in Chart Patterns. And this is by Thomas N. Bulkowski. And we're going to see if we can identify this as a symmetrical triangle. And if this is a symmetrical triangle, it has about a 54% chance of, in the long term here, breaking to the upside. And I'm going to get into some of these statistics with you, but I think you're really going to find this interesting here, and it may help just calm you down a little bit in the longer term time frame, because you always want to look at these things in the longer term and just know that this is still so early in the cryptocurrency space. So if you get some from this, guys, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends. And we're going to dig into this. So remember, this is Thomas N. Bulkowski, Getting Started in Chart Patterns. And what it says for symmetrical triangles, so we're going to go through all these, basically all the different points that he says for symmetrical triangles. We're going to see if we can identify them on our chart here for Litecoin. So the first one, it says, look for a converging price trend, higher valleys and lower peaks. So you can see the lower peaks that have taken place, and we have the higher valleys. So this is our symmetrical triangle. Next, it says trend lines drawn along the peaks and valleys form two converging trend lines that join at the triangle apex. So this is absolutely what would happen here. We can continue to drag these trend lines out. This will be our apex. So far 2 for 2. The next one, prices. The peaks or valleys must touch each trend line at least twice. So we have that. We have our 2 touches up here. We almost had 3. But we didn't quite make it up to that point before we started our retracement. And then down here we have our 2, and you can see how they're separated by a long amount of time as well. So this is really a strong potential for this long-term symmetrical triangle. Next, what it says is prices must cross the pattern from side to side, leaving little white space. And I believe that's what we have here. We have a little bit of white space up in this area. So that's a spot, and that's just because of how hard we fell and how aggressive we fell during that bear market of 2018. I mean, this was just a wicked drop here, guys, but you can see how we've chopped back and forth in here now. So when they say white space, on my chart it'd be black space here. So you want a lot of chop in between here, but I do believe this would still qualify. You can see how we're chopping back and forth throughout this symmetrical triangle. So the next one, I would say that's also a win for Litecoin there. And then the next one is volume trends downward 86% of the time from the pattern start to the day before the breakout. So if we look at this, volume trends down 86% of the time. So do you see when we had our massive spike, look at these big sticks of volume and how heavy the volume was here. And now that we've been in this symmetrical triangle, what's happened? Our volume's really dried up. Beautiful, right? So the next one, it says a breakout occurs when price closes outside the trend line boundary. An upward breakout occurs 54% of the time. So typically symmetrical triangles will want to break with the trend. And obviously, guys, from when we had this huge spike, and this was back when Litecoin was back at $4, whatever, our trend overall has still been up. So this is an upward or an uptrending symmetrical triangle. So it has greater odds of actually breaking out to the upside here. Now, this could take a lot more time because, as you see, we can chop back in here, then we could come back up in here, but at some point we're either going to have to break out through this top or break down to the bottom. If we break down to the bottom, we'd be looking at $38 for support, and then we'd be looking down here around $22 for support. If we start breaking to the upside, we got to get over $84 is going to be a key area for us, then around that $148, and that was our previous of this 6-month trend, our previous high, and then it'd be up here around that $442, which we wicked up to. And that's how crazy things can get in this space. Think about it. We were at $4 before, and it went all the way up to $400+. So this is where you just always have to prepare yourself. Now, as we continue to look at this symmetrical triangle, a few things that they say. Throwbacks occur 57% of the time. Pullbacks occur 49% of the time. So when they say this throwback, what they're talking about is breaking out of here. You'll run up, and then you'll actually have a throwback, potentially back onto that same area or back onto this trend line of the symmetrical triangle here, and then you'll bounce again, but you'll have that retracement. It won't just be a clean breakout. And then for that pullback, they're talking about how you break down, you'll pull back test this trend line, and then potentially fall farther to the downside. So that's definitely something that you always want to look for as well. But you know, guys, as we sit there and look at this, we're stepping back and we're saying, okay, we are in a longer term symmetrical triangle here, and if we could break out of this longer term symmetrical triangle in the next weeks to months to the upside, I mean, it really could break hard and fast and very aggressively. Look what it did back in here. That's just how this space likes to move. But now the volume's slowing down as we're chopping back and forth in this symmetrical triangle. And what I also wanted to point out here we had a golden cross. You can see where our 50 crossed over our 200 moving average right there. That was a golden cross that led to a massive move. Then we had our death cross, which took place at about $155, and that took us all the way down to $22. Look how powerful that was. Then we had another golden cross where our 50 moved over our 200, and when that took place, we were at $43. We went all the way up to about $145. Then we had our death cross, which took place at $86. It took us all the way down here to $37, and then we just had our golden cross. So you can't say that these things aren't significant. When you're looking at this, you can see these are massive percent moves. So when you can put these things, or the odds in your favor or on your side, that's what I like to look at. We have a golden cross here that just recently took place, and this is all leading into the Bitcoin halving. You know, the difficult thing about when you're charting Litecoin is that it's all dependent on Bitcoin. We could have a beautiful chart pattern setting up or a beautiful uptrend going, and it looks like it will continue, and if Bitcoin dumps, it's going to bring us down with it most likely. That's just the name of the game. So, you know, guys, you always have to be careful. You have to protect yourself, use those stop losses, but you also have to put history on your side, and you also have to use things like this Thomas Bulkowski chart patterns. We just identified for sure a symmetrical triangle, which we're chopping in back and forth, and we have a greater chance at breaking long term to the upside than we do the downside. Those are the odds in our favor, even though we still have to protect ourselves to the downside. Because remember, we got to look at our capital like troops. We're sending our troops out. We want to capture more, bring them back without losing any of our troops. That's how you win the war. And that's how you have to look at your capital as well. When I read in my Japanese candlestick charting book, they talk about that all the time. So this is what I wanted to leave with you today, guys. You know, don't freak out so much. We are at a critical point. We're sitting on top of this 200-day moving average, which is a tough area here because we really need to hold it. And we're having a little bit of a nasty candle forming today, which is a bit of a surprise here because we've had a lot of chop and defense. We almost had, you know, like a tweezer bottom down here, but almost a triple bottom down in this area here. So there was a lot of defense. But we're going to have to see what we do with this candle, if we're going to close again back up above this 200 and it's going to be support, or if we're going to start closing back below it. So that's the tough thing, guys, and that's just what we have to be careful of right now. We really have to watch Bitcoin because the trend could potentially be changing to the downside. Like I said, it may be a big cool off, then we chop back in here, we chop back and forth for a while before we potentially make that move to the upside if we do. But I just wanted to identify this with you. You tell me what you think, guys. Let me know down low. God bless each and every one of you. Have a happy Saturday. Take care.